Hey there, I'm Emma. My story starts when I was 27 at a friend's birthday bash. That's where I first locked eyes with Jake. He stood out in the crowd, tall and with a smile that could light up a room. He worked in finance, something with stocks, I guess. He approached me with a confidence that was hard to ignore, and we hit it off instantly. It was all laughs and shared interests. I remember thinking, wow, this guy is something special. We started dating, and it was like living a fairy tale. Jake was all about grand gestures. I'd find a bouquet of roses at my doorstep, surprise dinner dates at fancy restaurants. He was full-on Prince Charming. But it wasn't just the material stuff. He had a way of making me feel like I was the only person in the world. But looking back, there were signs I wish I hadn't ignored. One evening, as he handed me yet another extravagant gift, I tried to protest. "Jake, this is too much." "You really don't have to," I said, feeling a bit overwhelmed. He just chuckled. "Emma, nothing's too much for you. I want to give you the world." It was sweet, but a bit intense. Fast forward a year, and we're getting hitched. Our wedding was a dream, a beautiful venue, perfect dress, and the works. But amidst the celebration, I caught glimpses of something else. Jake's mom, Evelyn, was there, of course, dressed impeccably. She had this air of superiority, making comments on everything from the flower arrangements to the way I held my bouquet. "Emma, dear, make sure you're smiling properly for the photos," she'd say with a critical eye. It felt more like a photo shoot than my wedding day. After the wedding, things took a turn. Jake's obsession with material possessions became apparent. He bought an expensive car, but it was more a trophy than a vehicle. I once suggested we take it for a spin. "Emma, we can't. It's not just a car. It's a status symbol. What if something happens to it?" He said, almost panicking at the thought. It felt ridiculous. This car, meant for driving, was just sitting there, untouched. Another time, we argued about furniture. Jake brought home a set of chairs and a sofa that looked more like art pieces than something you'd actually sit on. I remember saying, "Jake, these look great, but are they even comfortable?" Our old couch was so cozy. He fired back, "Comfort, Emma. You need to see the bigger picture. This is designer furniture. We can't just think about comfort." Our conversation started to revolve around the price and prestige of things rather than our day-to-day life. It was all about what we owned, not how we lived. I felt like a visitor in my own home, tiptoeing around these expensive treasures. The dining room was another example. Jake replaced our old dining table with a massive ornate one that looked like it belonged in a castle. "Jake, this table is huge. It's just us two." "Why do we need something so grand?" I asked, feeling out of place in my own dining room. He just laughed. "Emma, you need to think big. This is how successful people live." The final straw was the art. Jake started buying paintings. I'm no art critic, but even I could tell they were more about price tags than passion. "Another painting, Jake? Do you even like these?" I questioned, staring at the latest addition to our gallery. He responded almost robotically. "It's not about liking, Emma. It's an investment. It shows we have class." I realized then that our home wasn't ours anymore. It was a showcase for Jake's wealth and status, a place where things mattered more than people. It was around this time that things between Jake and me really started to unravel. We were drifting apart, and it felt like we were living completely separate lives under the same roof. One day, I tried to have a heart-to-heart with him. I found Jake in his office, surrounded by his precious collections. "Jake, we need to talk," I began, feeling a knot in my stomach. "This isn't the life I envisioned for us. Our home feels like a cold gallery." He barely looked up from his papers. "Emma, that's just how it is when you move up in the world. You need to adjust." "Adjust? Jake, I feel like I'm living with a stranger. You care more about your things than us," I said. Jake finally looked at me, his eyes cold. "Maybe you're the one who's changed. You used to admire my ambition." It was like talking to a wall. He just couldn't see how his obsession with material things was tearing us apart. Then came the crystal set incident with his mom, Evelyn. She'd come over one day and I thought maybe, just maybe, we could have a nice family dinner. I decided to use the crystal dining set Jake's grandmother had left him. It was beautiful, and I thought it was perfect for a special family dinner. Big mistake. As soon as Evelyn saw the table, her face turned red with anger. "What on earth are you doing, Emma? Using the crystal set for a casual dinner? Are you out of your mind?" I was taken aback. "Evelyn, it's just a dinner set. I thought it would be nice to use it for once." Jake walked in, and instead of backing me up, he sided with his mother. "Emma, you should have known better. These are not for everyday use. They're valuable." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Valuable, Jake. "They're just collecting dust in a cabinet. What's the point of having them if we never use them?" His response was curt. "It's about preserving their value, Emma. Not everything has to be used." That was the moment I realized our relationship had hit rock bottom. Jake and his mother were more concerned about preserving things than enjoying them or nurturing our relationships. From that point on, things only got worse. Jake became more distant, and I felt lonelier than ever in our perfect home. His priorities were clear, and sadly, our marriage wasn't one of them. I decided to file for divorce. It wasn't what I wanted, but it was what I needed. After the finalization of my divorce, I felt a profound need to escape, to find solace away from the chaos that had engulfed my life. Seeking a fresh start, or at least a temporary respite, I planned a solo trip to the seaside. It seemed like the perfect way to celebrate my newfound freedom and to reflect on the tumultuous journey I had just endured. 1 week into my serene escape, while I was lounging on the beach, my phone erupted with the harsh ring of an incoming call. The screen displayed Jake's name, stirring a whirlwind of emotions within me. With a heavy sigh, I answered, bracing myself for what was to come. The moment I greeted him, Jake's voice, thick with fury, boomed through the phone. "Emma, what the hell have you done to my house? My paintings, my furniture, everything's ruined." I sat bolt upright, my heart pounding. "Jake, what are you talking about? I've been at the sea for a week. I haven't been anywhere near the house." His accusations grew louder, more frantic. "Don't play games with me, Emma. This has your spite written all over it." Flustered and shaken, I struggled to make sense of his words. "Jake, I swear I haven't done anything." "I don't know what happened, but it wasn't me." He hung up abruptly, leaving me in a state of shock and confusion. Panic set in, and I hastily packed my belongings, cutting my trip short. The drive back home was agonizing, filled with a mix of fear and dread about what I would find. My mind raced with possibilities, none of them good. Upon arriving home, the scene that greeted me was beyond anything I had imagined. The living room, once a pristine showcase of Jake's expensive tastes, was in utter disarray. The designer furniture was scratched and damaged, and the paintings that Jake had so meticulously selected were torn and defaced. It was a scene of deliberate vandalism, a targeted destruction of the material possessions he had valued so highly. I stood amidst the chaos, struggling to process the extent of the damage, when my phone rang again. This time it was Evelyn, Jake's mother. Her voice oozed with a vindictive satisfaction as she spoke. "I hope you're happy now, Emma. Seeing all of Jake's precious things destroyed must be quite satisfying for you." Stunned, I managed to reply, "Evelyn, what are you talking about? Did you do this?" Her laughter was cold, devoid of any remorse. "Well, I couldn't let you enjoy all these things after the divorce. I thought I'd take them away from you, just like you took my son away." I couldn't help but nervously laugh. "Evelyn, you've made a terrible mistake. The court awarded these items to Jake, not me. You've destroyed your own son's property." There was a moment of silence as the truth sank in. "No, that can't be. They were supposed to be yours to punish you." The call ended abruptly, leaving me in a state of shock. I was reeling from the shock of Evelyn's confession and the state of my home. I was trying to make sense of it all when my phone rang again. It was Jake. Bracing myself for another round of accusations, I answered. "Emma, this is not over. You'll pay for what you've done," he seethed, without any greetings. "Jake, listen to me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Your mother just called. She admitted to destroying your stuff, thinking it was mine." There was a pause on the line, a silence filled with disbelief. "What? My mother? No, you're lying. She wouldn't do something like that." I felt a surge of frustration. "Why would I lie about this, Jake? She thought she was getting back at me for the divorce. She didn't know the court awarded those items to you." The skepticism in his voice was palpable. "I don't believe you." "Check your mail, Jake." I recorded a phone conversation with her in which she admitted everything. "Listen to it yourself." Another pause followed, longer this time. "If this is true, Emma, it is true, Jake. Your mother made a huge mistake." The call ended abruptly, and I was left standing in the middle of the living room, surrounded by the remnants of Jake's prized possessions, feeling a bizarre mixture of vindication and sadness. A few hours later, Jake called back, his tone now a mix of anger and confusion. "Emma, can you believe this? I'm suing my own mother." "Yeah, you do." "And Jake, I had nothing to do with this. I hope you understand that now." The situation quickly escalated into a legal mess, with Jake deciding to sue his own mother. I watched the whole drama unfold with a sense of irony. It was almost poetic justice, the woman who raised a son to worship material things now being sued by him for destroying those very things. Jake called me a few days after he filed the lawsuit, sounding all worked up. "Emma, can you believe this? I'm suing my own mother." I couldn't help but laugh. "Well, Jake, looks like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You and your mother are more alike than you think." He didn't find it amusing. "This isn't a joke, Emma. She destroyed property worth $90,000. "Oh, I know it's serious, but come on, Jake. You're suing your mom over things. Didn't you learn anything from our divorce?" He was silent for a moment, probably not expecting my blunt response. "I have no choice, Emma. She went too far," he replied, sounding drained. "Maybe now you'll understand, Jake. Life's about more than just stuff. You and your mother, you really deserve each other," I said as I hung up the phone. I couldn't help but feel a sense of closure watching Jake and his mother entangled in this legal and emotional chaos. The court sessions were a spectacle. Jake, usually so composed, was now embroiled in a bitter legal battle with Evelyn. She seemed to fluctuate between regret and stubbornness. I'd bumped into Jake outside the courtroom once and couldn't resist a jab. "How's it feel, Jake, taking your own mother to court?" He looked defeated, a shadow of his former self. "I never wanted it to come to this," he sighed. "What did you expect? You and your mom are always placing things above everything else," I retorted. The judge eventually ruled in Jake's favor. Evelyn was ordered to pay the full sum for the damages. When Jake called to tell me about the verdict, I felt no sympathy for him. "So you won. Happy now?" I asked, my tone laced with sarcasm. "It's not about winning, Emma. It's a mess," he replied, sounding drained. "Maybe now you'll understand, Jake. Life's about more than just stuff. You and your mother, you really deserve each other," I said as I hung up the phone. The whole ordeal had been a roller coaster of emotions, but it also served as a stark reminder of what happens when material possessions take precedence over relationships. It was a chapter of my life that I was more than ready to leave behind. After everything that had happened, my life took a turn for the better. I became tougher, more determined, and I relished the freedom I had gained from the shackles of my former life. I had no regrets, no sympathy for Jake or his mother, and I was enjoying every moment of my new, simpler life. One evening, while having a casual dinner at my comfortably modest home with my friend Sarah, the conversation turned to Jake and his mother. "Can you believe Evelyn had to get a job to pay back the 90 grand she owes Jake?" I said, shaking my head in disbelief but with a smirk on my face. "It's like a soap opera, but you can't make this stuff up. She really shot herself in the foot." Sarah laughed. "I know, right? After all her high and mighty act, look where she ended up, working to pay off her own son. It's karma at its finest," I nodded in agreement. "And what about Jake? How's he handling all this?" Sarah asked. I shrugged, taking a sip of my wine. "Who knows? Who cares? They're both out of my life, and that's all that matters. I've got my peace back, and that's priceless," I said with a chuckle, relishing the irony of the situation. The conversation moved on to how different my life was now, devoid of luxury, but filled with real comfort. "You know, I love your place. It's so you, no fancy stuff, just real, lived-in charm," Sarah remarked, looking around appreciatively. "Thanks, Sarah. That's exactly what I was going for. A home, not a showroom. It's amazing to live in a place where I can actually touch things without worrying about their price tag," I said, feeling a surge of pride. We spent the rest of the evening chatting and laughing, a stark contrast to the tense, uncomfortable gatherings at my old house. It felt good to have a space that was truly mine, reflecting my personality, not my social status. As Sarah left, she said, "You seem so much happier now, Emma. It's like you finally found your place." I smiled, feeling a deep sense of contentment. "I have, Sarah. I really have. I've learned that happiness isn't about owning things, but about living life on your own terms," I replied, finishing my coffee. "But maybe now you can start focusing on what really counts in life," I added as I stood up to leave. I looked at Jake, once so proud and confident, now humbled by his own actions. "Take care of yourself, Jake, and maybe try caring about people more than things," I said before walking away, feeling a sense of closure. The whole ordeal had been a roller coaster of emotions, but it also served as a stark reminder of what happens when material possessions take precedence over relationships. After the whole lawsuit drama, things calmed down, but the air was still thick with tension and unresolved feelings. Jake and his mother were no longer on speaking terms, and the once grand and proud home now felt more like a battleground. A few weeks later, I ran into Jake at a local coffee shop. It was an awkward encounter, but I couldn't resist striking up a conversation, curious about how he was coping. "Hey Jake, how's life treating you after the big court drama?" I asked, unable to hide the sarcasm in my voice. He looked up, weary and deflated. "Emma, it's been tough. Mom and I haven't spoken since the verdict," he replied. I sipped my coffee, trying to mask my indifference. "Well, what did you expect? You sued your own mother," I said with a shrug. I know, but she crossed a line. It's complicated," he sighed, running his hands through his hair. "Seems pretty straightforward to me. You both worshipped material things, and look where it got you." I replied, and Jake looked down, the weight of the situation sinking in. "I guess I never realized how far we'd gone until it was too late," he admitted. "It's a hard lesson to learn," I replied, finishing my coffee, "but maybe now you can start focusing on what really counts in life." As I stood up to leave, I looked at Jake, once so proud and confident, now humbled by his own actions. "Take care of yourself, Jake, and maybe try caring about people more than things," I said before walking away, feeling a sense of closure. The whole ordeal had been a roller coaster of emotions, but it also served as a stark reminder of what happens when material possessions take precedence over relationships. After everything that had happened, my life took a turn for the better. I became tougher, more determined, and I relished the freedom I had gained from the shackles of my former life. I had no regrets, no sympathy for Jake or his mother, and I was enjoying every moment of my new, simpler life.
Your dog finally got what it deserved, Janet said over the phone, her voice full of satisfaction. Now my cats can visit without that monster bothering them. I gripped the steering wheel tightly, speeding to the emergency vet. My heart pounded as I thought of Max, my 3-year-old German Shepherd. He had collapsed after breakfast, the same meal my mother-in-law, Janet, had prepared that morning. "What'd you do to Max?" I asked, my voice shaking with anger. "Oh, just a little something to calm him down," she said casually. "They'll be fine. Maybe next time you'll train your dog properly." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Janet had always disliked Max, but this was beyond anything I imagined. Max wasn't just a pet. He had been my comfort after my husband, Mike, and I lost our baby. But Janet never understood. She hated Max, saying he was a poor substitute for the grandchild she would never have. As I reached the clinic, his staff rushed out with a gurney. "Mrs. Mitchell," Dr. Santos greeted me. "We need to run tests right away. Do you know what happened?" I swallowed hard, explaining how Max had collapsed and how Janet had just called, bragging about putting something in his food. Dr. Santos's face darkened. "We need to document everything. This is a crime." My phone buzzed with messages from Janet. "Dogs are replaceable. Maybe now you can focus on giving me real grandchildren. Mike never wanted that much anyway." I forwarded the messages to the vet, then called Mike. My hands were shaking. "Anna? What's wrong?" he asked. "Your mother poisoned Max," I said. She just admitted it. Silence. Then finally, That's impossible." "Check your messages." I recorded her call. He exhaled sharply. "I'm on my way." Dr. Santos returned with x-rays. "We found small capsules in Max's stomach. We're sending them to the lab." This was done on purpose. "Will he survive?" I asked, my voice breaking. "We caught it early, thanks to you." "But Anna," she leaned in, "this isn't just about Max. People who do this often escalate. You need to be careful." Mike arrived, his face pale as he looked at the evidence. "I never thought. I knew Mom didn't like Max, but this." "She didn't just dislike him, Mike," I said, pulling away from his touch. "She tried to kill him. She enjoys hurting people." My phone buzzed again. Another text from Janet. "A dog isn't a child, Anna. Time to grow up." I showed it to Mike. His expression hardened. "The police will want to talk to her," I said. He nodded. "Good. It's time someone stopped her." Janet thought she could get away with it, but she had no idea this was just the beginning. The next few days passed in a blur of police reports, veterinary updates, and increasingly unhinged messages from Janet. Mike had moved us into a hotel temporarily, worried his mother might try something else while Max recovered at the animal hospital. "The lab results are back," Dr. Santos said during our morning update call. "We found a combination of prescription medications in those capsules. Some were pet medications, but others," she paused significantly, "others were human prescription drugs. Very specific ones." I sat up straighter. "What does that mean?" "It means your mother-in-law didn't just use random poison. These were carefully selected medications, some of which require special authorization to obtain. We've shared the findings with the police, and they're particularly interested in how she accessed these drugs." The implications hit me like a truck. Janet worked as a receptionist at a medical clinic. Had she been stealing medications? The thought made me sick. Mike was meeting with a detective when I arrived at the animal hospital to visit Max. My normally energetic shepherd was still weak, but his tail wagged when he saw me. Dr. Santos had said he was lucky. If I hadn't noticed his symptoms so quickly, the outcome could have been devastating. "Mrs. Mitchell," Detective Parker greeted me, his notebook open. "We've made some interesting discoveries. Your mother-in-law's employer has been very cooperative." Mike looked up, his face grim. "They've been missing medications for months, Anna. Small amounts, nothing obvious. But when they checked the logs against the lab results." Janet had access to everything found in Max's system, Detective Parker confirmed. We've obtained security footage showing her accessing the medication storage area outside of normal business hours. I stroked Max's head, feeling him lean into my touch. So this wasn't just about hurting Max. No, the detective replied. This appears to be part of a larger pattern. We found evidence of other potential incidents. Your mother-in-law may have been experimenting with these medications for some time. Mike buried his face in his hands. I can't believe this. All those times she offered to help with Max's anxiety, saying she had special supplements. You didn't know, I said softly, though part of me wanted to scream. I told you so. I'd always refused Janet's offers to treat Max, trusting my instincts when she seemed too eager to medicate him. Detective Parker cleared his throat. We'll need to investigate other possible victims. Were there any other pets in the family who experienced unexpected health issues? Mike's head snapped up. My sister's cat died 6 months ago. Mom said she found it having seizures and tried to help, but his voice trailed off as the implications sank in. We'll need to speak with your sister, the detective said, making notes, and anyone else who might have had pets become ill after contact with your mother. Just then, my phone buzzed with a new message from Janet. I hear Max survived. Pity. But there are always accidents waiting to happen. Better watch him carefully. I wordlessly showed the message to Detective Parker, who immediately began typing on his phone. That's a direct threat. We're bringing her in for questioning now. As if on cue, we heard a commotion in the clinic's reception area. Janet's voice carried clearly. I'm here to check on my granddog. How dare you try to keep me away? Mike moved to block the door while Detective Parker stepped out. I held Max close, feeling him tremble as Janet's voice grew louder. This is ridiculous. I was trying to help. That dog is a menace. He needed to be dealt with. Anna's turned him against me, just like she turned Mike against me. The detective's voice was calm but firm. Mrs. Harrison, you're under arrest for animal cruelty, theft of prescription medications, and making criminal threats. You have the right to remain silent. This is absurd, Mike. Tell them. Tell them how that dog ruined everything. Tell them how Anna chose a dog over giving me grandchildren. Mike stepped into the hallway, his voice stronger than I'd ever heard it. The only thing ruining this family is you, Mom. And it stops now. I heard Janet's outraged scream, followed by the sound of handcuffs clicking into place. Detective Parker's partner led her away, still shouting accusations and threats. Dr. Santos entered a few minutes later, looking shaken but determined. Well, that was dramatic. But I have good news. Max's latest tests show significant improvement. We should be able to send him home in a few days, with some precautions, of course. Mike returned to the room, his face a mix of relief and grief. Anna, I don't know what to say. All these years, I didn't want to see what was right in front of me. Mom wasn't just difficult or overprotective. She was dangerous. I reached for his hand, and this time I didn't pull away when he took it. We're going to need to make some changes, I said quietly. Real changes, not just temporary ones. He nodded, reaching out to pat Max with his free hand. I know, and I'm ready. No more excuses, no more trying to keep the peace. Mom needs help, professional help, and we need to protect our family. I looked at our dog, still weak but fighting to recover, and thought about how close we'd come to losing him. Janet's action hadn't just threatened Max. They'd revealed a darkness that had been poisoning our family for years. But as I watched Mike gently comfort our dog, I realized something had shifted. Sometimes it takes a crisis to open our eyes to the truth. Janet's attempt to destroy what she saw as a threat had instead destroyed her own power over our family. The detective's words lingered in my mind. This wasn't over yet. They were investigating other potential victims, and Janet's threats suggested she wasn't done. But for the first time in years, I felt like we were finally facing the problem together instead of letting it tear us apart. The months following Janet's arrest brought changes I never expected. The investigation uncovered a disturbing pattern. 3 other pets in the neighborhood had died under suspicious circumstances, all after Janet had helped watch them. Mike's sister Amy was devastated to learn her cat's death wasn't an accident, but her testimony proved crucial in building the case against their mother. The DA is offering a plea deal. Detective Parker informed us during a follow-up meeting. Given the evidence and the multiple victims, Janet's looking at serious charges. The clinic is also pressing charges for theft of controlled substances. Max had made a full recovery, though he remained wary of strangers near his food. We'd installed security cameras around the house and implemented strict protocols about who could access our home. The experience had left its mark on all of us. She's still claiming it was all for the family's good, Mike said, shaking his head as we left the detective's office. Says she was trying to fix our family by removing the distractions. I watched as he knelt to greet Max, who was waiting in our car. The bond between them had grown stronger through this ordeal. Mike had finally seen his mother's true nature, and with that recognition came a determination to protect what really mattered. The court date arrived on a crisp autumn morning. Janet sat at the defendant's table, looking smaller somehow without her usual air of superiority. When she turned to look at us, I expected to see anger or blame in her eyes. Instead, I saw something that chilled me more: calculation. Before the court accepts this plea, the judge began. Does the defendant wish to make a statement? Janet stood, her hands clasped demurely in front of her. I only wanted what was best for my family, she said, her voice trembling perfectly. My son and daughter-in-law were so focused on that dog, treating it like a child. I thought if the dog wasn't around. You thought poisoning multiple animals would somehow fix your family? The judge interrupted, his tone sharp. The court has evidence of at least 4 victims, Mrs. Harrison. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was a calculated pattern of cruelty. The sentence came down harder than we expected. 3 years in prison, mandatory psychiatric evaluation, and a lifetime ban on working in medical facilities or owning pets. Janet's practiced composure finally cracked. This is your fault, she screamed as they led her away. If you'd just given me grandchildren instead of wasting time with that stupid dog. Mike stood up, his voice carrying clearly across the courtroom. No, Mom, this is your fault. And until you understand that, we can't have you in our lives. Outside the courthouse, Amy approached us with tears in her eyes. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you about Mom sooner, she told me, hugging me tight. Thank you for stopping her before she could hurt anyone else. Life gradually settled into a new normal. We moved to a house with a large fenced yard where Max could play safely. Mike started therapy to process his complicated feelings about his mother. Slowly, we began to heal. One evening, as we watched Max chasing fireflies in the backyard, Mike turned to me with a serious expression. You know what I realized? He said softly. Mom was wrong about everything. Max didn't prevent us from having a family. He helped us create one. He showed us what unconditional love really looks like. I leaned against him, thinking about how far we'd come. He also showed us how to recognize when someone doesn't have our best interests at heart, I added. Janet still writes sometimes, always with the same manipulative undertones. Her latest letter claimed she's found God in prison and wants to reconcile. We file each letter with our lawyer, maintaining the paper trail while keeping our distance. Max continues to thrive, his protective instincts now channeled into gentle care of our newest family member, a baby girl who arrived last spring. He keeps a watchful eye on her, just as he did for us when we needed him most. The security cameras remain, and we're still careful about who we trust with our family's care. Some might call it paranoid, but we learned the hard way that sometimes the biggest threats come from those who claim to love us most. Yesterday, I found Mike in the nursery, watching as Max lay protectively by the baby's crib. You know, he said quietly, I used to think Mom was right about what a family should look like. But now I understand. Family isn't about meeting someone else's expectations. It's about protecting the ones you love, whether they walk on 2 legs or 4. Looking at them, my husband, our dog who survived poisoning to become a guardian, and our daughter sleeping peacefully, I knew he was right. Janet had tried to destroy what she couldn't control, but instead she'd only made us stronger. Our family wasn't what she wanted, but it was exactly what we needed. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead us to our best decisions. Janet's attempt to fix our family had failed, but in its place, we'd built something genuine, something strong. And this time, we knew how to protect it. What do you mean you found cameras? My hands shook as I held my phone, staring at the tiny black device my best friend Emily had just pulled from behind my curtains. My stomach turned. There's more, Emily said angrily. I found 3 so far. 1 in the kitchen, 1 by the front door, and now this one. They're hidden well. I only noticed them while cleaning the windows. My name is Anna. And I never imagined I'd find secret cameras in my own home. But I knew exactly who put them there. Margaret, my mother-in-law. She had been trying to control my life from the moment I married her son, David. Found another one, Emily called. It's pointing at your bedroom door. I felt sick. 4 cameras. 4 different angles of my private life. My hands moved to grab one, but Emily stopped me. Don't touch them yet, she warned. We need proof first. She was right. Emily wasn't just my best friend, she was a detective. This wasn't just creepy, it was illegal. Margaret had always been overbearing, but this was worse. I thought back to her last visit when she insisted on helping while David was away. She had probably planted the cameras then. I can't believe she'd do this, I whispered, but deep down, I could. Margaret had been getting worse. She would show up uninvited, criticize my housekeeping, and spread lies about me to David and his family. David always made excuses for her. That's just how Mom is, he'd say. But this wasn't just being overprotective. This was an invasion of my life. Emily pulled out her phone, inspecting the cameras. These are high-tech, wireless, motion-activated. Someone set these up professionally. Just then, my phone buzzed. Margaret. Just checking in, dear. How are you holding up alone? I worry about you. I nearly laughed. She wasn't worried, she was watching me. Then a terrifying thought hit me. Emily, I said slowly, if these cameras are live. Emily's eyes lit up. Then we can use them. Act normal, don't let her know we found them. But let's give her something to watch. I took a deep breath. What do you have in mind? First, we gather evidence. Then, we catch her spying. And after that, Emily smirked. We make sure she regrets it. I texted Margaret back. I'm fine, just having tea with a friend. Thanks for checking in. Seconds later, she replied, Oh, you have company? Who? I smiled. She was trying to figure out who was in the house. I stepped into the living room where I knew a camera was hidden, while Emily stayed out of sight. That night, after Emily left, I sat alone, staring at the camera. I wanted to rip them all down, but Emily was right. We needed proof. And Margaret needed to be caught. I called David. Hey, how's the trip? Boring. Mom called, said she's worried about you. Of course she did. I'm fine, I said. Actually, I was thinking about working on that family photo album she wanted. David hesitated. That's nice. She'll love that. I smiled, knowing Margaret was watching. Yes, I think it's time to go through everything. All the pictures, all the memories. After hanging up, I grabbed our wedding album and sat where the camera had a clear view. I slowly laid out photos, Margaret glaring at our engagement party, her trying to wear white to my wedding, her pushing my family away in group pictures. My phone buzzed. Margaret again. Don't stay up too late with those photos, dear. You look tired. I smiled directly at the hidden camera. Don't worry, I texted back. I'm just getting started. Margaret wanted to watch me. Fine. She was about to see the truth about herself. The next morning, I put our plan into action. Emily had set up a system to track when the cameras were being accessed. Now I could see exactly when Margaret was watching, and she was watching a lot. As I made breakfast, I made sure to stand in view of the kitchen camera. I called my sister, speaking loud enough for the microphone to catch every word. You won't believe what I found, I said. Remember those strange things I told you about? Doors unlocking on their own, objects moving. Well, I think someone's been in our house. I paused, watching the small red light on the camera flicker. Within minutes, my phone buzzed. Margaret, is everything all right? Do you need me to come over? I smirked. No thanks, I'm handling it. Throughout the day, I kept the act going. I made loud phone calls about home security systems. I searched signs of stalking on my laptop, making sure the camera had a clear view. Each time, Margaret's texts became more frantic. At noon, Emily arrived in her police uniform. This wasn't part of the original plan, but it was perfect. We sat in the kitchen, right in front of the camera. So you think someone's been watching you? Emily asked, taking out a notepad. Yes, I said. Strange things have been happening for months. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but now. I listed everything Margaret had done. The surprise visits, the rumors, and now the hidden cameras. Emily nodded, keeping her tone serious. These are serious crimes: breaking and entering, stalking, invasion of privacy. We'll need to investigate. My phone buzzed again. Margaret was calling this time. I ignored it. The thing is, I continued, staring at the camera. I think I know exactly who it is. The camera light flickered. She was watching. After Emily left, I walked through the house, pretending to search for more cameras. My phone rang nonstop. Margaret, then David. I finally answered. Anna, Mom's freaking out, David said. She says you're accusing her of something. Did she tell you she's been in our house? I asked. Or how she always seems to know exactly what we're doing. Silence. Then, what are you saying? I'm saying, I said, looking into the camera, that maybe your mother's concern isn't as innocent as you think. An hour later, Margaret's car screeched into the driveway. She stormed in, using her own key. What do you think you're doing? She snapped. Calling the police? Turning David against me? I stayed calm. I don't know what you mean, Margaret. I was just reporting suspicious activity. Why does that bother you? She hesitated. I'm worried about you. You're imagining things. Am I? I asked. Am I imagining the cameras? Her face went pale. What cameras? I pulled out my phone, showing her the live feeds. These cameras. The ones that have been streaming to your phone for the past 3 weeks. Margaret opened her mouth, but no words came out. Save it, I said. The police already have the proof. Every log, every recording. The only question is, what happens next? She sank onto the couch, her hands shaking. I was just trying to protect him, she whispered. No, I said firmly. This stops now. Either you tell David everything, or I will. Right on cue, we heard David's car pull in. Margaret's face crumbled as she realized it was over. David looked between us, confusion etched on his face. What's going on? Mom, why are you crying? Before Margaret could spin another lie, I held up my phone, showing him the live camera feeds. Your mother installed hidden cameras throughout our house, I said quietly. She's been watching us for weeks. The silence that followed was deafening. David stared at the screen, his expression shifting from confusion to disbelief to horror. Mom, his voice cracked. Tell me this isn't true. Margaret started sobbing, but these weren't her usual manipulative tears. I was trying to protect you. She's not who you think she is. No, David said, his voice hardening. She's exactly who I think she is. You're the one who's not who I thought. He turned to me. How long have you known? Emily found them yesterday, I replied. We documented everything, when they were installed, every time they were accessed, every recording made. David walked to the nearest camera, reaching up to take it down. His hands were shaking. Where else? I pointed out each location, watching as he methodically removed them. Margaret remained on the couch, her protest growing weaker with each camera discovered. Keys, David said suddenly, turning to his mother. Give me your house keys. Now. David, please, Margaret pleaded. I did this for you. No, he cut her off. You did this for yourself. You did this because you can't stand not controlling every aspect of my life. Give me the keys. As Margaret fumbled in her purse, I saw something shift in David's eyes. Years of making excuses for his mother's behavior were crumbling in the face of undeniable evidence. I want you to leave, he said quietly. Don't call, don't text, don't come by. Not until you get professional help. Margaret stood up, clutching her purse. You're choosing her over your own mother? I'm choosing to have a healthy marriage without your interference, David replied. I'm choosing to set boundaries that should have been set years ago. After Margaret left, David and I sat in our living room, the dismantled cameras scattered on the coffee table. I'm so sorry, he whispered. All those times you said something felt off, that things had moved. I should have listened. I took his hand. You're listening now. That's what matters. The next few weeks brought significant changes. David started therapy to work through his complicated relationship with his mother. Margaret, faced with the possibility of legal charges, agreed to seek professional help as well. Emily helped us upgrade our home security, this time with cameras we controlled, monitoring only the exterior of the house. We changed our locks, set firm boundaries, and began the process of rebuilding trust. 3 months later, we received a letter from Margaret's therapist. She had been diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive personality disorder and was making progress in treatment. The letter included a handwritten note from Margaret. A genuine apology acknowledging her actions and their impact. Do you want to respond? David asked me after reading it. I thought carefully. Yes, I decided. But on our terms. We agreed to meet Margaret in a public place with clear boundaries established. When she arrived at the cafe, she looked different, humbled, more self-aware. I've been learning about respect, she said quietly. About privacy and trust and letting go. I know I can't undo what I did, but I'm working to be better. It wasn't a perfect ending. Real life rarely has those. But it was a beginning. Margaret learned that her attempts to control us had nearly cost her everything. David learned to stand firm in protecting our marriage, and I learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's holding up a mirror and letting someone see the truth about themselves. Our home became truly ours again, free from unwanted surveillance and uninvited intrusion. The spaces that had felt violated were reclaimed, filled now with genuine laughter and honest conversations. Last week, Margaret sent another letter. Inside was a certificate showing she completed her therapy program, along with a simple note. Thank you for giving me the wake-up call I needed. Some lessons are hard to learn, but they're worth learning. David pinned the note to our fridge, not as a reminder of what happened, but as a symbol of how far we've all come. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones who need help themselves. The cameras meant to expose my flaws ended up revealing something much more important, the truth that set us all free. Now, when I walk through our house, I don't look for hidden cameras or question if I'm being watched. Instead, I see a home that's stronger for having weathered the storm, a marriage that stood firm in the face of interference, and a family that's learning, slowly but surely, what real love and trust look like.